Hey, I'm Rob Faye from the Foy Health Program, and today we're talking about something that every single one of us has fallen victim to: dysfunctional, unhelpful, or flawed beliefs. Right off the bat, let me say that my initial reaction to these beliefs when I first saw them was that these beliefs just don't apply to me. But after reading the studies about each of these beliefs and truly understanding the dysfunctional or flawed belief, I have come to the realization that I have fallen victim to each and every one of these flawed beliefs at some point in my life, some many, many times over. In fact, I now know, after huge amounts of research and study, that every single one of us have been tricked by human nature to rely upon these flawed and dysfunctional beliefs at one time or another. And I say tricked because when I slow down and actually focus on my thoughts and the flawed belief upon which the thought is based, I can see that the belief is just not true. It's not based on the actual facts or upon logic. I think you'll find that to be the same for yourself. I asked myself, why was my initial reaction such that I denied having fallen victim to these beliefs, these dysfunctional beliefs? I came to the conclusion that I had in my mind that if I did have these flawed thoughts or relied upon these flawed beliefs and took actions upon those flawed beliefs and thoughts, I myself was flawed. In reality, by relying on these flawed beliefs, I was simply being human. It's something we all do. These flawed beliefs are ingrained in our human nature and have a basis that goes back to the fundamental instincts related to survival. I mean, this could be the topic of an entire video, so we're not going to talk about them in detail today. But let me say this: any one of us would, could, and have fallen victim to each of these dysfunctional or flawed beliefs because we're all human. It's human nature and totally normal for such flawed beliefs to be the basis of our thoughts and then consequently the basis of our actions. The difference for you and I now, under the Foy Health Program, is that we are catching these thoughts and actually analyzing them, in other words, checking them against these dysfunctional and flawed beliefs in order to change our behavior. We are using the 3C method: catch it, check it, and change it. With that said, let's learn about these dysfunctional, unhelpful, and flawed beliefs so that we can actually recognize them. We're going to identify the primary list of flawed beliefs and give you an example of each and provide a possible healthy response that we can say to ourselves to counteract the unhealthy thought. At the end of this video, you'll want to take a picture of the list of dysfunctional or flawed beliefs so that you can easily apply them to some of your thoughts. These thoughts apply to any of your actions, whether it's for the Foy Health Program or whether it's anything else. We have to analyze and think about our thoughts to determine whether or not they are based upon dysfunctional, unhelpful, or flawed beliefs. So let's jump into a list of these flawed beliefs. The first one, called Baseless Rules: adhering to a rule with no legitimate present-day basis. For example, I must completely finish everything on my plate. A possible healthy response to that thought is, I am acting like a child that has to be part of the clean plate club. I'm not hungry anymore and should stop eating. I stop eating when I'm full, not when my plate's clear. The second flawed belief is competitive comparisons. The habit of comparing oneself, especially your body, to another person. The real problem here is that most people have a tendency to compare themselves to someone that is thinner or more attractive than they are. With such a comparison, it's nearly impossible to feel good about your own body, about yourself, especially nowadays, where everything, nearly everything, we see on social media is curated, a perfect picture. Plus, every time you focus on comparing yourself to another, you constantly reinforce the concept that appearance is of critical importance. A possible healthy response: physical appearance is one single aspect of my entire self, and quite honestly, not a very important aspect in the long run. I'm going to forget the comparisons and accept the fact that there will always be people on both sides of my comparison point. For example, no matter how tall I am, there's always going to be somebody taller, or somebody shorter as far as that goes. I compare myself to 2 or 3 weeks ago. Am I heading in the right direction? If I am, I should be proud of myself. Every day I accomplish one of my action goals, and consequently, the results I want take care of themselves. As a side note, I can tell you that we'll talk more about action goals and results goals in the next couple of weeks as you progress through the daily success practice. Okay, the next dysfunctional thought and belief is jumping to conclusion, which has two components: mind reading. False belief that you can look inside of somebody's mind and know what they're thinking based upon their actions and their body language. It's as if you think you can read minds. For example, you may think, others are looking at me and thinking that I am wasting my time at the gym. A possible healthy response to that would be, when I see an overweight person at the gym, I should immediately bond with them and respect them. I know it's not always easy to motivate myself to get to the gym, and I'm sure it's the same for most people. I bet everyone at the gym has similar feelings. After all, we all have the same objective. Only some got started before others. Try to remove yourself from the situation and pretend like this flawed belief is happening to someone you love. And they've asked you for advice. Let's call this best friend advice. Instead of giving this advice to your best friend, actually give the advice to yourself. It's a good way to proceed. Say something like this to yourself in this situation. Once the other people that I look at in the gym get into their routine, they are focused within and could care less about what I'm doing. Okay, another type of flawed thinking under jumping to conclusions is called fortune telling or power of suggestion. It's the practice of looking at a situation and predicting the outcome without having enough facts to know what the outcome will be. The biggest concern with this type of thinking is that you have unwittingly engaged the power of suggestion, and your subconscious thoughts may drive your actions to a self-fulfilling prophecy. For example, you might say to yourself, I'll go to this restaurant tonight and eat too much bread, and then give up on my planned eating for the rest of the meal. This is what always happens to me. Okay, a possible healthy thought could be, I have been in this situation before, and I know how to handle it. First, I make a plan in advance, which includes a healthy snack before I go to the restaurant, so I'm not famished, and choosing my meal from the online menu before I actually go to the restaurant. I don't even have to open up the menu when I get to the restaurant. Instead, I'll be catching up with my friends while others are looking at the restaurant menu. Then I use my deep breathing, if I need it, to help me relax and stick to my eating plan. It's that easy for me. So what would the best friend advice be to yourself? Say to yourself, be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Expect a positive outcome, and you'll get it. The next type of dysfunctional belief is discounting or disqualifying the positive. A tendency to discount positive aspects related to appearance or situations. For example, I know he said I look good, but he was just saying that to be kind. Or this false belief might lead to you to say something like this to yourself. I haven't lost a single pound since last week. What's the point of all this? A possible healthy thought could be this. He said I look good for a reason. Let's face it, guys just don't give compliments unless they actually see a difference. I've lost a lot of weight since I started my healthy lifestyle. And just because I didn't lose pounds this week doesn't mean I didn't lose inches. He hasn't seen me for a month, so he's noticing weight loss or maybe inches loss. My hard work is paying off. And what would the best friend advice be to yourself? Remind yourself of all the positive things you've done recently. Another type of dysfunctional or unhelpful belief is dichotomous thinking, all or none thinking, when things are either black or white and no shades of gray. For example, if I don't exercise 5 days a week, I've failed the program. A possible healthy thought would be, missing a day or two once in a while does not equal failure. 2 months ago, I never exercised, so I've come a long, long way. Next week, I'll exercise one way or the other on 5 days. Best friend advice says this: focusing on negatives to the exclusion of all the positives serves to drain your energy and destroy motivation. You cannot control everything yourself. Some things are out of your control. So don't place blame or waste your mental and emotional energy on things out of your control. You control your efforts. Focus on your efforts, and the outcome you desire will follow. You're responsible for your daily success practice every morning. You control that. No excuses. Soon it'll be easy and a way of life that you can't live without. The next dysfunctional or unhelpful belief is overgeneralization, having a negative, generalized, or exaggerated view of something, which is based upon one, usually a small number, bad experience or a limited amount of information. The key words here are always and never. So for example, I always come home from work ready for dinner and end up blowing my eating plan for the day. A possible healthy thought could be this: just because I lost control last night does not mean I have to lose control tonight. The past does not equal the future. Think of this visual. The jet stream behind the jet does not determine the direction of the jet. I've planned my meal in advance and I'm starting to get into a routine of eating healthy. Last night was the exception and not the rule. Best friend advice to yourself says this: think of exceptions to this overgeneralization that you've made. Remember specific times when you've overcome a temptation and you did not overeat at dinner. Think further of those times when you made healthy dinner choices, and remember how good you felt about yourself because you made healthy lifestyle choices. The next dysfunctional belief is maximization or minimization. It's the practice of blowing things out of proportion or attempting to completely put the consequences of one's actions out of your mind, or believing that certain actions have minimal consequences. For example, it really won't matter if I pop some candy into my mouth, as long as it's not a lot of candy. Possible healthy response is, I can't just ignore that I am eating. It really does matter for a lot of reasons. First, I'll be adding extra calories with no nutritional benefits, which will throw off my energy balance and lead to weight gain. I remember that sugar is energy-dense food, if you want to call it food. Second, the candy does nothing to engage the I am full feedback loop in my body. But I will then engage, because I popped that sugar, all the eating functions in the body, and that will lead me to search for more food and begin to eat, even though I'm not really hungry. That means more extra calories. Third, I'll not be able to wean myself off of sugar cravings if I constantly pop sugar throughout the day. Fourth, I will keep my body in an elevated acidic condition and keep my insulin and blood sugar bouncing back and forth at elevated levels. Best friend advice to yourself would be this: remember that sugar is the enemy. Once you break yourself of this habit, you'll have more energy and feel better than you've ever felt in your life. You won't experience those dreaded sugar crashes that make you feel like you have to sleep in the middle of the day. The next dysfunctional belief is selective attention. It's a cognitive process of selectively concentrating on one aspect of the environment while ignoring other things, or focusing on environmental cues that are consistent with the negative thoughts or views one might have. For example, for the person that feels overweight, I see all these super fit people at the gym and I feel really fat. A possible healthy response would be this: it makes no sense to focus on just the physical aspect of the people I see at the gym. There is so much more to these people, and to myself. I see plenty of people at the gym that are in the same place or similar place as me, working hard to live a healthy lifestyle. They deserve a lot of credit, as do I. I'm here living a healthy lifestyle. If I don't think I'm as healthy as I can be, I just have to remember that consistency is part of the formula for success. So I just have to keep doing something consistently. Remember, incremental small steps lead to huge results over time. I became out of shape over many months, maybe even years. So I need to be patient and expect to take some time, maybe not a long time, but some time to get back into shape. When you want to remember this dysfunctional belief, think of a horse with blinders on it. This forces the horse to focus on only one thing. So don't walk around with blinders on. The next dysfunctional belief is recency error, the habit of basing a decision and having a thought which is unduly influenced by one or two recent events. For example, I tried a new vegetable last week and it was terrible. so there's no point in trying this kale in my salad tonight because I won't like it. A possible healthy thought is this: I like to try new things, and it's part of the reason I like the Foy Health program. I'm not limited on what kind of food I can eat. I can eat whatever I want, except foods that are loaded with added sugar or saturated fat. If I don't try kale, I may miss out on something that could be a favorite in my salad. I want a variety so I never get bored. Plus, it's one of those dark green vegetables that are packed with nutrients. Best friend advice would be this: in all your thoughts, try to look at the big picture and the long term. In this case, the big picture is I am living a healthy lifestyle. And part of that is to identify foods that are actually healthy for me. In order to identify such foods, I have to be open to trying new things and changing my old behaviors, the ones that haven't worked in the past. The next dysfunctional belief in our list is double standard. Standard that is applied strictly to one person but more leniently to another. In particular, being lenient towards others for behaving a certain way and applying a strict standard to oneself for that same behavior. For example, I am a weak person because I didn't stick to my portion sizes. A possible healthy response would be this: I just got a little lazy and thought I could judge portion sizes without measuring. I am strong in other areas of my life, so a small lapse here does not mean I'm a weak person. Everybody makes mistakes. So what? I made a mistake. I'm back on track now, thinking measurement all the way. Best friend advice would be this: do not knock yourself down. Build yourself up. Remember, what you would say to someone you love, that's what you should be saying to yourself. Positive, uplifting thoughts. Give yourself that same benefit. The next dysfunctional or unhelpful belief is associations or habit, linking two otherwise unrelated items primarily out of habit. For example, it's noon, so I've got to eat. A possible healthy thought is this: yes, it's lunchtime, it's noon, but I'm not hungry. Although I know I can't skip a meal, I can certainly scale it back or delay my eating for a short amount of time till I actually experience slight hunger feelings. It's a good time for me to practice actually feeling true hunger triggers and to recognize them. Best friend advice would be this: whatever you do, do not skip your meals or your snacks. You may think you're doing yourself good by reducing calories, but in reality, you're setting yourself up for feelings of deprivation or overwhelming hunger or uncontrolled eating. Eat every 2 or 3 hours. Bigger meals should be eaten every 4 or 5 hours, with healthy snacks in between. Depending on the timing of your meals, you may be able to stretch these times a bit to fit your own schedule. The final unhelpful or flawed belief is called labeling. The practice of putting someone or something into a labeled category without considering any other aspect of that person. For example, I'm a weak person since I gave in to chocolate cravings. Possible healthy thought: okay, I had a temporary lapse in my willpower, but that does not mean I'm a weak person. It means that I gave in this one time. I'm a strong-willed person. People have been telling me that for years. I haven't changed in this regard. Instead of labeling myself, I can evaluate the circumstances to help me understand what made me vulnerable to this solitary moment of weakness. Best friend advice would be this: remember all the times that you persevered in your life that took tremendous willpower and a lot of personal strength. You just need to keep your goals in mind and direct that willpower towards accomplishing your goals. Believe in yourself and you will have success. Well, that's all I've got for you right now. I hope this was super helpful as you continue on your journey of living a healthy lifestyle. We hope you'll take the next step towards living your healthy lifestyle and subscribe to our YouTube channel or check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or somewhere else.